The first thing to really acknowledge and be mindful of is that emotions are inherent in every single decision we make, right? Families don't break up all of a sudden. They break up over time because the emotions aren't addressed or talked about. Those things called feelings, it's okay to have them.
We always have a choice of how we react and whether we can catch ourselves in that reaction and that interaction, right?
Welcome to the Business Transition Roadmap. My name is Elizabeth Ledoux, and through my years, I have seen how communities thrive when business succession and transition are done well. Me and my team at the Transition Strategists have been helping business owners develop and implement transition strategies for over 30 years. And on this show, we want to help you by giving you the roadmap to a healthy business transition. Let's get started.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Business Transition Roadmap. On our podcast today, I'm Elizabeth Ledoux, as you know, and we are just so thrilled to have Franco Lombardo with us. He is just an incredible person, and I love his belief that we all want to feel safe, and not just safe in our lives, but safe in our relationships, within our environments, and also within our wealth. For more than 20 years, he has been a family business advisor, a coach, a facilitator, and he's worked with some of the world's largest, most successful, affluent families, helping them to foster a culture of what he calls safe space. So he's been a mentor and been able to develop next gens. He's done emotional governance for the family, and he's also written 5 books. His latest is Safe Space Governance in Action. So Franco, welcome today, and maybe start by telling us a little bit about how you got into doing this in the first place.
So Elizabeth, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your show. It's a real privilege and an honor to serve your audience.
Thank you.
So, I come from the wealth management world, and I was successful at it. And yet I felt an emptiness and a meaningless to what I was doing. And I was curious about that. And I decided to hire a coach to help me unpackage and unravel that. And what he helped me realize was that I was leading my life based on the wrong purpose. I was pursuing money because I thought if I accumulate a lot of money, then that'll hide the shame that I had inside of me because of my childhood. I started to realize that I had a deeper purpose. As my accountant said to me once, he says, Franco, you're operating at about 2% of your capacity. Yeah, you're making money, but it's meaningless. And I remember when I first heard that, I was like, oh my God, I don't like you right now. And I'm kind of angry and I'm considering firing you. Fortunately, I didn't. I processed and came back and went, okay, so what do I do with that? So that's how I got on the journey.
Nice. Wow, that's an incredible story. Yeah, emotionally to be able to take that comment and turn it into something productive that really actually probably changed your trajectory completely.
100%, so, now I'm very blessed and fortunate to work with some very amazing families and really get to have some conversations that is a privilege to be a part of and to help them understand, what's their narrative, what's the story that's running the show. Because as I tell families that I work with and whenever I speak is, everything we do for a reason. We just don't know what that reason is. And that reason is actually based on our narrative or our conditioning or what we call our emotional governing systems.
Talk a little bit more about that so we understand what that emotional governance is.
So, we think that we are in charge of our responses, but in reality, we're not. So when someone is speaking to us, particularly in a family business context, if we have a sibling talking to us or a parent talking to us or a child talking to us, we get triggered. We get emotionally triggered based on our wound, right? So my trigger has been around abandonment and has been around, that I've done something wrong. And there are times, up until recently, that if a family said, we're not ready to work with you, I would take that deeply personal. I would make it about, what did I do wrong? It's my fault versus, maybe not ready. Maybe, they say they want to do the work, but they're not really committed to doing the work. A variety of reasons, but it's not really about me. So the emotional governing system runs the show, right? And as I was able to unpackage mine being around abandonment and shame and wounds, I'm able to react differently now in any situation.
Right. So some of the work that you're doing is helping people to actually understand some of their personal emotional governance, help them to identify maybe some of those triggers, and then understand how to interact with each other in a family like that.
So we define emotional governance as having your emotions in such tight regulation that they're an asset, not a liability to yourself and the system. So effectively, we help adults manage the child within that has unprocessed trauma.
In your work, coming out of that financial background in that financial world, you've really morphed into this personal side.
Yeah, and I just want to be clear, we're not a psychologist, we're not a therapist, and we're not a counselor. We're a coach.
Yes.
So what we do is we ask the obvious questions that people have been avoiding or haven't known to ask. Like, why do you think you behave that way? Why do you think you react that way? Where's that coming from?
Yeah. So being a master person that produces incredible questions.
Yeah. We ask the obvious question that people don't want to look at or have been avoiding.
So tell us a little bit about how that ties into the idea of then a safe space and being safe not only with yourself, your environment, but also with your wealth.
Yeah, so safe space is a concept that I came up with in my 5th book. And by the way, we have another book coming out in a couple of months. So happy to talk about that. I'm really excited about that project. So safe space is basically, as you said in the introduction, one of our basic human needs is we want to feel emotionally safe with ourselves, in our relationships, and with our wealth. Now, what do I mean by feeling safe with myself? What I mean by that is being okay with all parts of me, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Right? Because human beings, we are so afraid of feeling the pain of the past and facing the fears that we have. So we create these constructs to avoid all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Being in a safe space is saying, you know what? I'm going to go and feel the pain that I felt in the past, and I'm going to go face my fears, whatever they may be. So being emotionally mature to be able to say, I'm going to take charge of my emotions. And the other thing is, I want to share with the audience is, your emotions are not who you are. Just because I felt shame doesn't mean I'm shameful. It's an emotion that I felt, and I get to choose whether I want to hang on to that one or let it go.
Yep, absolutely. And that, yeah, because we all have that choice, right, of how we navigate and how we react to things that trigger us. We always have a choice of how we react and whether we can catch ourselves in that reaction and that interaction, right, or not. Or not. And some of what you're saying there is about that safe space, right? How can you do that?
And to recognize that, we are going to get triggered. It's how do we react? How do we behave? And as I tell my clients, what's the behavior you choose versus the behavior choosing you?
Yeah, that's a deep one.
And what happens is, if Elizabeth, you and I are in a conversation and I get triggered, the moment I'm triggered, I'm in my wound and off in my narrative, and I'm completely out of the conversation already. So as we coach our clients, listen, when you get triggered, just go, oh, I just got triggered. I'm going to use the tool that Franco gives us, which we call the awareness tool. And I'm going to go to that in a minute, but I'm going to stay in the conversation.
Nice. Yeah. So talk a little bit about what are some best practices as people enter and think through this transition journey that they're on, because some of the foundations on my side is that transition is a journey. It hopefully is not an event, because if it's an event, it typically is abrupt and people are panicked. And then the other thing is that it is about money. However, the relationships are so valuable in a transition of any kind. So talk a little bit about, because you're on that side of the people side, what are some things that people do that maybe they miss? And what are some best practices as they go through this, I guess, season in their lives?
Well, I think the first thing to really acknowledge and be mindful of is that emotions are inherent in every single decision we make. Right? And neglecting their importance as an afterthought is dangerous and, in my opinion, irresponsible. Because families don't break up all of a sudden. They break up over time because the emotions aren't addressed or talked about. Right? So for you listeners, it's okay to say, yeah, we've got emotional challenges, we've got family dynamics that we need to address. Right? And ignoring those is at your peril. You will become a statistic. It's guaranteed. It's not if, it's when.
Yeah.
So focus on the emotions. The other thing is, human beings are really great at saying, you know what, I really want to lose weight. I want to learn how to communicate better. But no action. I was recently speaking at an event, and I got an email from a participant saying, you know what, really interested in what you do. We've made communication our priority for this year for the family, but we're really busy, so we'll get to it when we get to it. So, as my COO says, you vote with your calendar. Your calendar tells you what really matters to you. And a lot of family businesses out there, and this is going to offend a lot of people, and that's okay, because I deliver the truth. The truth sometimes isn't pleasant. A lot of family businesses will say, my family really matters. But when the rubber meets the road, they're not investing in the family dynamics and family relationships. They spend money on structures and governance and investment policies, and that creates wealth. And they haven't done anything to prepare themselves for the wealth of God. So no wonder there's conflict.
Absolutely. Well, and not only prepare themselves, but also prepare the heirs, right, who are going to take this over. And, from my perspective, and also from my experience, part of the fun of the journey is with the family interacting around the dynamics of the wealth and what the wealth, not the big trips and everything that it can bring you on that front, but, just the knowledge of, how to manage it and the responsibility of it, and how to enjoy it. Right? Not just protect it, but how to
100%.
enjoy it, and even how to enjoy it in, with different types of kids, different ages, different interests. This can be so curated and so designed to meet the human being's needs instead of the structure's needs.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is a lot of current generation family members plan for the kids with their advisors.
Yes. Yeah, we find that all the time. And it, my curiosity sits there, and I'll ask you, Franco, what do you think sits behind those parents, if you will, or those, the wealth creators, the wealth owners today? What fears stand there? Why don't they talk to their kids? What's your opinion on that? And I know you just did a survey, and you have a research paper that just came out.
Yeah. So the number one enemy of family businesses and actually of any relationship is silence. Right? And what happens is when patriarchs and matriarchs, and let's go back, that their primary role is going to be a parent, that's the dominant natural role, is they believe that when it comes to talking about the emotional issues, they got to bring up the numbers. And that's not the case. And what happens is, and we just, as you just mentioned, we just completed our research, which just got launched on LinkedIn today. So if you want to get a free copy, just go on my LinkedIn profile, right? And just type in research and we'll send you a complimentary copy, right? And because we did it because we want to give back to this industry, So what we found was, and this will answer your question, there's a massive disconnection between the current generation and the next generation. So I'll give you 3 examples. So for number 1 is the current generation believes that preparedness, how the kids are prepared or ready, is based on skills and inviting them to boards and family meetings. The current generation, their belief of preparedness is, am I emotionally ready? Am I heard? Am I seen? And I'm understood? Do I have the ability to freely express myself? Number 2, we ask the current generation, we had 6 emotional challenges, right, that are common for all families. And by the way, not one respondent said, oh, we don't have one of these. Every single one picked one, okay? Because remember, emotions are inherent in every decision we make. So the founding generation said sibling rivalry and entitlement, top 2 issues, obviously from a parental lens. The next generation, lack of communication, control. And the other interesting statistic is, I would say about 52, 53% of them had traditional governance, yet almost 70% said that these do not deal with family dynamics.
Yeah.
And when asked, what are you doing about it?
Not much.
Not much.
Not much. Well, and I think that some of that is behind that, I'll call them the transitioning generation. That I think some of that is, in their defense, not knowing what to do.
100%. And if we go, if we go a little bit deeper, I can't tell you how many founders I've worked with that have said to me, I'm at this place and I don't know who to talk to.
Yeah.
I've accumulated the wealth and I've got these adult children and I'm ready to transition, out of the wealth to the ownership of the assets. And I don't know what to do. And by the way, I'm really scared because I've never dealt with this before.
Absolutely. Well,
so for you founders listening, what you're feeling is absolutely normal and okay. It's what you do with those feelings that matter. So if you keep it to yourself, not a good thing. Reach out to someone like Elizabeth or other professionals. Say, listen, I've got this stuff. I don't know what to do. Can you help me, please?
Absolutely. Yeah. And, this is, as far as, and you're in it too, Franco. Reaching out to you. We've got wealthy families going your direction as well, because this is an emerging industry for people who are trying to go through this well. We have plenty of examples of people who have gone through it, and the statistics are, more failure than success by far. And it's newer, and people are bringing human beings into the picture and into the equation, where I think in the past it's been mostly about trust and protection of wealth. And now they're starting to try to figure out how to use this wealth for the benefit of, again, the human beings and their relationships.
Yeah. The reason we did the research is because people want empirical proof. Well, now we've got proof that these are issues.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Yeah. So this has been a great conversation. What I'd like to do is ask you a super open-ended question as we get closer to the end of our session here. When you've seen families walking into some of this type of transition in the work that you've done, where do you see them falling down the most? Just in the beginning.
Almost every family that I've worked with has the one child
Mm.
that has been not held to account. They have been they're not been held accountable for their actions. And that child, when we start working with families, could be in their 40s and 50s, and
Yep.
they're a spoiled brat because the parents created that. And until that child is held to account, they become the biggest challenge in the family.
Hmm.
I'm working with a couple of families right now where, in one particular case, the mom, is always making excuses, right? And, the child has never been held to account, and he's 50.
Yeah. Yep. And don't you think that at least from my perspective, especially as I work with many, many, many wealth creators who are the wealth creators. It's not generationally inherited, and now that they don't have an example of a family life where there was success in the transition. And so I think it's one of the number one fears. I asked you earlier, what's one of the number one fears that keeps people from talking about wealth? And I think it's that entitlement, not being held or not being able to hold someone accountable because they know you have the wealth, your child, and they know that you'll bail them out. And so that entitlement, I think, is one of the biggest fears and kind of gates, roadblocks that keeps these parents from moving forward.
Yeah, and what happens is the price of poker goes up every single time. The bailout is bigger and bigger and bigger until finally the parent goes, I can't do this.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I guess the next question, Franco, is it fixable?
Yes, if there's a genuine desire, right?
Yeah.
But there has to be a desire to get really honest.
It-
And typically when we're at that stage, people are pretty fixed in their ways, so it's difficult to change, right?
yeah. Well, and I would think that yeah. I mean, personally, I've seen it to be fixable also. The pain of it would have been much easier if they would have fixed it earlier, because the pain, that just embedded behavior and
Yeah.
the embedded, in shifting people's lives completely from being well cared for and I don't have to do anything to, oh my gosh, I'm 50 and I actually have to figure it out now, would have been
Yeah,
easier when
I
it
gotta
was
get a
20.
job.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Oh my gosh, incredible. And, but since we're living longer, those 50-year-olds have another 50 years. So, yeah, but it is lessons learned all along the way that I just think about a sense of urgency in a family to begin at an earlier time when they can develop and use time as their friend, right? Instead of time as their enemy.
Yes, that's the ideal world, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, families say families matter, but it really doesn't, because they're more interested in growing the business, doing that piece, because it's frankly easier.
Yeah. Yeah. Relationships, and especially family relationships, are kind of tough, aren't they?
Yeah, we're very blessed to work with some amazing families that are really courageous and truly committed to family. That's why they work with us.
Yeah. 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 I can see that. Well, and you're experts in the field. So in what you do, absolutely incredible.
Thank
So,
you.
you're welcome. It's true. It's true. So as we kind of wrap up here, because I know we're right at our time, I always like to ask for one final thought that you would like to leave with the audience just to help them in their journey. So what would be one thing that you'd like to leave with them today?
Those things called feelings, it's okay to have them.
Wow.
And those feelings don't define who you are. they're like the weather. They pass.
Awesome. Awesome. Those are amazing words to end on. So gosh, Franco, thank you so much for your time today and for being with us and for all the knowledge and the wisdom that you shared. And I'd love to encourage everybody to, go out, and I pulled up on the website. It's called The Missing Link in Family Business Transitions: How Emotional Disconnection Threatens Family Legacy. And I think there's a lot of information that you can glean from this. My wish for you is that you will take a step, that you'll do it sooner than later, and that you'll create a sense of urgency, knowing that transition is a journey and it can be a very, very fun and emotionally safe and positive experience. So anyway, Franco, thank you again.
You're most welcome. And just would like to let the audience know that we have a new book coming out in a couple of months. It's called What Your Parents Didn't Tell You.
Mm.
We're going to be doing pre-orders before it comes out, with some really cool giveaways, some thought leadership pieces. So if people want to look at that, we're going to give a whole bunch of tools for people to use to say that, emotions are okay to have.
That's great. Well, as that comes available, make sure that you let us know so that we can send it out to our audience too and let them know that it's coming.
Wonderful. Elizabeth, thank you so much. It's been a real privilege and an honor being on your show, and I love the work you do. So please keep it up.
Well, and I love the work that you're doing as well. So yeah, we'll stay on this track together. All right. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Business Transition Roadmap. If you're ready to start shaping your own transition strategy, which I'm really hoping that you are, our team at the Transition Strategists would love to offer you a free discovery strategy session where you can explore what might be good for you and just some new ideas. We've got a new perspective and a new approach with people first. And a lot of what we talk about, nobody has ever really done before. So I want to encourage you to think about that and to go to transitionstrategist.com/discovery to schedule your call if you are even curious. It's free, no pressure. We'd love to talk to you. And by the way, if you're a successor or if you've got one in your business, you'll also want to check out for sure Your Next Gen Friend, A Successor's Guide to Business Transition. It's a podcast that's hosted by my successor, Andrea Carpenter. She's incredible. And this one is specifically designed for rising leaders in family businesses. So thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time on the Business Transition Roadmap.